Yesterday, in my opening address, I explained to you the objectives and the expected outcome of this conference. I explained to you the concept of humanity and the concept of humanism and of humanitarianism. Manav, Manavata, Manavatavad, Manavikotavad. Manavikotavad means helping people in distress, who are distressed by conflicts, by war, by famine, by disasters, etc. When the humanity is in crisis, how to help them, and on what basis we can help them. So we have a global humanitarian philosophy, which is primarily based on the Christian concept of charity, which was started by the Red Cross movement with a Red Cross sign, which was subsequently became a Red Cross and Red Crescent. In Islamic countries, they call it Red Cross and Red Crescent. They also adopted it with a Red Crescent sign. Subsequently, in 2005, the Jews also accepted it, and they put a star there, Jewish symbol. So in their country, they put it red crescent, red star, crescent, and star. Three things. So, but quite a large sections of the humanity, about 30% more than that, we are believing the Indian philosophy of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. We are also spread all over the world, and we have much to contribute to this humanitarian philosophy because we have been practicing it long before the Europeans were doing. The United Nations General Assembly, in its resolution in 1991, they approved the humanitarian principles based on the Red Cross movement. That is, number one, neutrality, humanity, charity, then independence, sovereignty. These are 4-5 principles on which the global humanitarian philosophy is now based. So we thought that we have also to contribute our philosophy in these 2-day deliberations, the different faiths in Indian, different systems of Indian philosophy, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. We tried to bring those principles. So I have put all these together and tried to present an Indian humanitarian philosophy charter. So I will present this charter. So I had circulated it to some of the participants and I got some inputs from them also. I'm trying to modify it, given a final shape. And this is still a draft. So I'm open to suggestions from you. Another 4-5 days, then we'll give it a final shape. Now the charter as it is written here, I'm just presenting it. So this is the Indian Humanitarian Philosophy Charter, Seva, Karuna, Prema, and Dana as the ethical foundations of humanitarian action. Adopted at the workshop in the Humanitarian Philosophy of India, Theory and Practice, 28th and 29th of November 2025. So these are the contents of this charter, divided in 8 parts. First is preamble, second, philosophical foundations, third is the core ethical principles, fourth is the 4 guiding dimensions of Indian humanitarianism, fifth is application to contemporary humanitarian action, sixth is towards a global humanitarian ethics, seventh is commitments and call for action, and eighth is the conclusion. So one by one. So the preamble, recognizing the deep humanitarian roots within India's civilizational, spiritual, and philosophical traditions, this charter seeks to articulate a distinctly Indian humanitarian philosophy grounded in the timeless values of seva, selfless service, karuna, compassion, prema, I'll add that, love, and dana, ethical giving. Humanitarianism is not merely a modern institutional practice, but a universal moral impulse that has found expression across cultures and faiths. In India, this moral consciousness has been nurtured through diverse religious, ethical, and social traditions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and other indigenous faiths, which have offered profound reflections on human suffering, interdependence, and the duty of care. This charter aims to reaffirm those ethical foundations, reinterpret them for contemporary humanitarian challenges, and contribute to the global dialogue on the moral basis of humanitarian action. The philosophical foundations, 5 philosophical foundations: unity of life, interdependence of dharma, service as self-realization, compassion as realization, and giving as ethical renunciation. Unity of life. Indian philosophical thought through concepts such as Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family, and Sarvabhuta Hite Rata, one who delights in the welfare of all beings, affirms the essential unity of all existence. Humanitarianism in this vision arises from the awareness that all beings share a common destiny. Interdependence and dharma. The concept of dharma embodies the ethical responsibility to act in harmony with the welfare of others. Humanitarian ethics in this sense are not acts of charity, but duties rooted in moral order and social justice. Service as self-realization. Seva, or selfless service, transforms the act of giving into a path of spiritual growth. It links personal realization with collective well-being, dissolving the separation between giver and receiver. Compassion as realization. Compassion, karuna, is not a sentimental benevolence, but an awakened self-consciousness, the recognition of shared suffering and the commitment to alleviate it. Giving as ethical renunciation. Dana, or generosity, emphasizes detachment from possessiveness and the redistribution of material, emotional, and the intellectual resources for the welfare of others. The core ethical principles are seva, karuna, prema, and dana. So I have explained this. Seva. Seva represents the voluntary and ego-free engagement in alleviating the sufferings of others. It is expressed in Hindu karma yoga, Sikha langar, and community service, the social reform movements of saints, and the everyday acts of service that sustain Indian civil society. And that is very important because every day we are doing some kind of seva, retail philanthropy, they call it, retail philanthropy, which we are not knowing how much is the quantum of that. There is a lot of studies on that, but we do not know. But every day we are doing some kind of service, it's part of our ethos. It transcends boundaries of religion, caste, gender, and nation, affirming service as an expression of universal humanity. The ethical foundation is service should be rendered without expectation of return, motivated by empathy and equality, and oriented towards human dignity. Now, karuna, the principle of compassion. Karuna is central to Buddhist ethics and equally resonant in Jain, Hindu, and Sikh traditions. It calls for an active recognition of suffering, dukkha, and a deliberate moral response to reduce it. Karuna transforms awareness into action. It is the foundation of non-violence or ahimsa, tolerance, and peace building. Ethical implication is all humanitarian action must be guided by empathy, emotional intelligence, and a commitment to no harm. Prema, the driving force of selfless action. Prema refers to selfless, unconditional, and expansive love for all. Prema is not merely emotional affection, but an ontological recognition of the same divinity or moral worth in all human beings. Prema includes empathy, compassion, and non-possessive benevolence. Ethical foundation is across Indian traditions. Prema is considered as a transformative ethical force that motivates action beyond self-interest, making it a core humanitarian value. And dana, the ethics of giving. Dana signifies more than material charity. It is an act of trust, solidarity, and shared responsibility. The giver is ethically transformed through renunciation of attachment, and the receiver is enabled through restorations of dignity. The traditions of annadana, giving food, vastradana, clothing, and Jnanadana, sharing of knowledge, exemplify generosity as a continuous social duty. Ethical foundation, giving must afford reciprocity, humility, and justice, dismantling the structures of inequality rather than reinforcing dependency. The four guiding dimensions of Indian humanitarianism: spiritual humanism, ethical humanism, non-violence, and social justice and equality. Spiritual humanism, all humanitarian action stems from the recognition of the divine or sacred essence in every human being. Atman is Brahman. Compassion and service are spiritual practices that cultivate inner transformation alongside social change. Ethical pluralism, Indian humanitarian philosophy embraces diversity of faith and perspective, affirming that truth and compassion can manifest through multiple paths. Ekam sat vipra bahudha bhavanti. Non-violence, rooted in Jain, Buddhist, and Gandhian thought, ahimsa is both a moral restraint and an active force for social justice, peace, and ecological harmony. Social justice and equality, humanitarian action must dismantle hierarchies that perpetuate suffering of caste, gender, and class and creed, affirming equality of moral worth of every life. Then the application of these principles in contemporary humanitarian action. One is crisis and disaster relief. We integrate Seva and Karuna into community-based disaster response, emphasizing dignity-centered participation and non-discrimination. Then climate and ecological humanitarianism. Draw upon the Indian ecological ethos, Prakriti Dharma, that perceives humans and nature as interdependent. Environmental stewardship is a humanitarian duty. Third is the development and humanitarian continuum. Reframe development not merely as economic progress, but as loko sangraha, the collective welfare and upliftment of all. Peace building and conflict mediation, apply ahimsa, karuna, dharma in peace and reconciliation efforts, promoting dialogue rooted in mutual respect and forgiveness. And fifth one, gender and social inclusion, uphold the inclusive vision of Indian spiritual traditions that honor the divine feminine Shakti and reject discrimination as contrary to humanitarian dharma. Then towards the global humanitarian ethics, this charter acknowledges that global humanitarianism are historically evolved through Western moral and intellectual frameworks. However, the world today requires a plural humanitarian ethics that draws upon the moral reservoirs of all civilization. The Indian perspective contributes the following universal insights, that is, integration of the spiritual and the practical. Humanitarianism is not merely from daily life, it is a lived ethics. Unity of self and other. True compassion arises when the boundaries between the self and others dissolve. Holistic well-being, the physical relief must be complemented by emotional, spiritual, and ecological healing. Shared responsibility, every human being, community, and institution carries the duty, kartabba, to alleviate suffering and promote harmony. And education for compassion, embedding humanitarian philosophy is in education from schools to professional training is essential to cultivate future humanitarian leaders. Then commitments. So we, the participants here, endorsers of this charter, commit ourselves to the following. First, to advance the study, teaching, and dissemination of Indian humanitarian philosophy. Two, to promote interfaith and intercultural dialogue on humanitarian ethics. Three, to integrate Seva, Karma, Prema, and Dana into the design and delivery of human programs in India and abroad. Four, to encourage collaboration among religious institutions, humanitarian organizations, and academic centers. Five, to develop a repository of Indian humanitarian practices and philosophies for global sharing. And finally, to institutionalize the Indian Humanitarian Philosophy Charter as a living document guiding action, research, and policy. So, conclusion, the Indian civilization offers a profound moral inheritance that seeks service not as charity, but as a sacred duty, compassion, not as emotion, but as wisdom, and generosity, not as loss, but as liberation. In reaffirming these principles, we contribute to the renewal of global humanitarianism, one that recognizes the sacredness of life, the unity of humanity, and the ethical responsibility to care for all beings. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. So that concludes. So I have already shared it to others, and then I have also shared with Ashiji and Madam. I have also, and Shastriji, morning I've sent it to you. If you've seen, further changes, uh, we will keep it open for another week or so, and then it finalize it. So once it is finalized, then our future program is that this charter, Indian Human Charter, we will be sending it to different organizations, particularly Government of India. So my ambition is that we'll send it to National Capacity Building Commission. So they will include this and make it a part of the program for training for the IAS officers, how these values should be incorporated, because they are the persons who will be distributing relief during after riots or after disasters. So this will also be adopted in different other forums. So we are also planning, and that is Professor Sastry, Chancellor Sastry, he has suggested that he will be hosting one conference.
Narasimhamurthy.
Huh?
Narasimhamurthy.
Sorry. Narasimhamurthy. He will be hosting one national conference on that. Hopefully, we will be having a big conference. We'll bring in more organizations, because there are so many other organizations like ISKCON, like Art of Living and others. They are also doing work in a massive scale. So we'll all bring this together. Thakur Ramakrishna said, Jato Mahat Tato Path. Vivekananda in Chicago address final day, he said, universal religion. All religions should come together, because if we are believing in one way, we are fighting with each other. So let us all profess our own faith, maintain our own identity, ethical pluralism. So we should all have a better understanding. And then we are thinking that we will also send this document to Minister of External Affairs, and we'll say that, look, in the United Nations in 1991 adopted a resolution, United Nations General Assembly, on the humanitarian principles. All the existing principles are there mentioned. So we say that we please update it, include our principles also in the humanitarian charter. So that is what our ambition is. That will be our contribution. That is our learning from this project that we are doing on Indian humanitarian philosophy. So that is the learning we are taking, and we are taking it for action in the spirit of Swamiji's practical Vedanta. Thank you.
So we heartily thank Dr. Dhar Chakrabarti for the enormous effort and how quickly he can put things together. That's the typical of senior IAS officers. And passionately he moved the whole thing. He only was responsible for giving us the idea of starting humanitarian studies center in our university. No such institution exists, is what he said. So we can collaborate with all of you, particularly, sir, your institution. And anybody has anything to say, I will also give my inputs within a few days. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. It was a very enlightening presentation by you. In the preamble of the charter that we read, humble suggestion, we saw three aspects. One is seva, service, another karuna, compassion, and third was dana, ethical giving.
Prema and dana.
But compassion was there, karuna. I would like to just draw your attention. Once Bhagavan Sri Ramakrishna, when discussion was going on Vaishnava Dharma, Bhagavad Bhakti, Jive Daya, Vaishnava Seva. These are the three central principles in the Vaishnava school. Bhagavan Ramakrishna mentioned that karuna is possible only to God. In the case of, he can only show karuna. Instead of that, he said that it will be seva. Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. The same thing later on Swami Vivekananda propagated all over the world. So we may rethink on this word, and something like feeling the other's difficulty as one's own, some such word can be adopted. Actually, it seems.
Karuna is very cardinal principle of Buddhism. We thought that,
Actually, we discussed it also yesterday. Ramakrishna said it in the context of Daya, not Karuna. Daya. He was not happy with the word Daya, not Karuna. No. Karuna is totally different concepts. Actually, Sri Ramakrishna was not happy with the idea of daya. Daya means you are in a higher pedestal and throw it. So he said Shiva Jnani Jiva Seva. But these words, compassion, is so often used in Christianity, and Karuna is a very cardinal principle of Buddhism. So these standard things that's what he was just now mentioned, Dhar Chakrabarti. We are reinterpreting and reimagining the whole thing. The words may be there, but we can reimagining. The difficulty is, Swami Vivekananda once asked, why do you use the word God again and again? He said that the only word that is available, and so much of emotion is associated with this word. Words which have come down over centuries and millennia, loaded with so much of emotion and feeling behind it. The words also are important. They can't be just like that change. Karuna and the compassion in Christianity, they have come down. So what we are trying to do is to reimagine and to reinterpret them, as Swami Vivekananda himself did, to suitable to the modern terms. So there is a submission. And we are extremely thankful to Dr. Chakrabarti for passionately pursuing this and quickly putting them together and presenting to us. Now it is open. People may give suggestions. I will also give some. So with this, our Brahmachari Aditya Maharaj will just briefly say thanks to the organizers and the others.
So as Revered Maharaj just mentioned, we have come to the close of this program. So I'm formally offering the vote of thanks. Revered Swami Atmapriyanandaji Maharaj, the Pro-Chancellor, he himself has been the main driving force behind this program. He has been working day and night for the last month or so on this. So, of course, he's not to be thanked for this. He's taken it as his mission. And Dr. Paromita Roy and Dr. Dhar Chakrabarti have both been fully involved in this planning and organization. So many thanks to both of them. Since yesterday, we have heard several wonderful presentations, talks, seen some videos. We have seen many representatives of eminent organizations who have done an excellent job in presenting the work and the philosophy of their organization that leads them into humanitarian service, and also the work that they have taken up by way of humanitarian service. So our thanks to all of the organizations, and I'll just mention the names of the persons who came. So we had Swami Muktinathanandaji and Swami Purneshwaranandaji, who represented our Ramakrishna mission. Sadhu Amrit Charit Das represented the Swaminarayan Sanstha, BAPS. And then Dr. Sudarshan was there yesterday and he is here now also. And Sri B.N. Narasimhamurthy ji, he has represented the Satyasai group of institutions. Sri Jayesh Bhakda represented the Srimad Rajachandra mission, which is from the Jain tradition. Today, Swami Dibyananda ji represented the Bharat Sevashram Sangha's ideal and practice of service. And we had Professor Tashit Sering, who has been present all through our program. He has represented the Buddhist Dharma, and he's the professor from the Central Tibetan Institute. And then finally we had the talk by Dr. Gopinder Kaur Sagu, who has represented the Sikh faith, the Guru Nanak Nishkam Sevak Jatha. So many thanks to all the speakers for bringing to us the ideals and the practice of humanitarian service from from each of your organizations. Now, that was what happened on stage. Then there were many who have accompanied the speakers since yesterday and today, and many who worked behind the scenes to arrange the program and to bring the speakers here to coordinate the program. Many thanks to all of the persons from these organizations who helped in bringing the speakers here and having a firm representation during this program. Now we have had this program for 1-2 days now in Belur Mutt. Our thanks to the manager of the Mutt and the authorities and staff of Belur Mutt for the wonderful arrangements they have made, the arrangement of this hall and the guest house for the speakers, and also the food that has been arranged for all the participants or participants attending this program. So thanks to all those who are involved in this. Then the university staff, the university monks and the university staffs who have worked very hard over the last several days to organize this program. Many thanks to all of them. And we had our group of students who started off the program auspiciously, and we had a chanting group who came and started the program. Thanks to them. And of course, last but of course not the least, there have been this wonderful audience who attended the program for 2 days, most patiently, attentively, and in a disciplined manner. I think Narasimhamurthy ji mentioned yesterday, in such a disciplined manner they have been paying attention and participating in this program. Thanks to them, the program has been a success. So many thanks to all of them. And in case there has been anyone who has been missed out, either those who came on stage or behind, so many thanks to all of them, all of those who have participated and come together in making this 2-day seminar a success. We shall now close. I think Rabiyat Maharaj may close with the chant, which we will all do together.
So, one great feature of this conference seminar, so we are just finishing in time. We have been able to keep time. I have attended so many seminars. We are now lagging behind. We are now, please close. So we never stopped anybody. So there's a standard thing everywhere. So the cooperation of all the students, some of them are dozing off, but even then it doesn't mind. ঠাকুর বলেছিলেন ওর সামনে এসে কেউ ঘুমিয়ে পড়তো, আধার সেনার্স বলে দেখো ঘুমাই, আমার সামনে তো ঘুমোচ্ছে, ঠিক আছে। Even that, Shrunayadebhiyo naraha, even those who have been just listening, even understanding, they also will get the same benefit. Is Bhagavad Vakya is so compassionate. So we called all of you just to get an exposure. You will never get such an exposure anywhere else. So thanks everybody. So we can now stand up and chant Purnamadam and close. Action ke karo. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hare Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. For lunch